For more, we have with us Dr. Jung-yeop, a research fellow from the Sejong Institute in Seoul. It's good to have you back on the show.
My pleasure.
So, 3 North Korean officials have been named in a new list of sanctions by the US Treasury Department. Can you tell us a little bit more about who they are and why they've been targeted?
So this time the sanctions are targeting 3 individuals and 3 groups within North Korea. First, it's Mr. Choi Yong-hae, who is known as a right-hand man of the Kim Jong-un, and he's also the director of Workers' Party organization and the guidance department, and which are notorious for the censorship within North Korea. And also Jung Kyung-taek, who is the head of the state security, which are dealing with the notorious prison camp in North Korea, and Park Kwang-ho, who is the head of propaganda department in the Workers' Party, and they are kind of known as for the brainwashing North Korean people. So it's not only the prison camp and the human rights, but also this time the state censorship is very much criticized by the U.S. government. So since Kim Yo-jong, sister of Kim Jong-un, has been already sanctioned by the same human rights issues, and Kim Young-chul is already sanctioned, that this time United government add more people on the list of the sanctioned because of the human rights issues. But this is not going, I don't think that this is going to affect much heavily on the current status of North Korea-US relations.
Right, but Washington must have known who these people were before the sanction list was announced. I mean, these figures aren't secret. They've been known for a while. So why now? Why have the US decided to slap these sanctions right now when there are these delicate situations between North Korea and the US with these talks?
So for the United States, because of the current relations between North Korea and China and Russia and even in the South Korea, that there are a possibility that the maintaining sanction is going to be very difficult. So to maintain the level of sanctions, the U.S. government believes that they have to update sanctions anytime that they have chances. So as you just mentioned, that these people are already known as a part of the leader group in the North Korea, and they are believed to have committed all kinds of human rights crimes and the censorship of the media in North Korea. So it's not new, but as you just mentioned, that it can be a message to North Korea that the United States can always bring up these human rights issues against North Korea, even though United States has never brought up this issue since June this year. So I think that with the stalled progress between North Korea and the United States with regard to the North Korea's nuclear weapons, United States might be able to use this kind of these human rights issues as a leverage to North Korea, or it can be just bureaucratic issues that U.S. departments, they have their own priorities in each department, so that is why they just brought up these issues separate from the current negotiation with North Korea.
You earlier said that you don't actually believe, though, that this new announcement will affect this negotiation between Pyongyang and Washington that much. Why do you believe that way?
Because on the same issues, that North Korean leader's sister, Kim Yo-jong, is always been on the list for the sanctions, and Kim Young-chul is already on the list. So now we have these 3 people, even though they are the part of the leaders group in North Korea, but they are below than those Kim Yo-jong and Kim Young-chul. So it's still a negative, it still has a negative effect onto the negotiation between U.S. and North Korea, but it does not give enough reason for North Korea to break from the negotiation with the United States. That is why I believe that it has still a negative effect, but it's not as big as North Korea to break off from the current dialogue with the United States.
So you just think it's a small tool just to perhaps put a little bit of pressure in this situation? You don't think it's as perhaps a calculated gamble to try and make something happen?
So the contents of this sanction is maybe a travel ban of these individuals and the freezing of their assets in overseas. So it does not really big for individuals who doesn't have foreign assets or who does not intend to travel foreign countries. So the real impact of sanction itself is not as harsh as it looks like. However, the symbolic meaning of the sanctions onto these people are more meaningful than its content. So that is why I think that the real impact of sanction is minimal, but it can be work as a symbolic message to North Korea.
So, and it's not all negative at the moment. You talk about a symbolic message. So what's a new development that's also come out is that there are reports that are saying that South Korea and the US are thinking of renaming their joint exercises for next year. Now, they're known as, there's a few known, including Key Resolve and Ulchi Guardian Freedom and Fall Eagle, but they're saying that they want to maybe change these names, perhaps to try and give a symbolic gesture to North Korea that they're changing their tactics about how they do these drills. I mean, what do we know about these reports, and would it really make much of a difference?
So for years that Korea and the United States have maintained these joint military drills mainly for two purposes. First one is to maintain the readiness and because like two countries wanted to make their militaries ready for any fight at any times. And second one is the messaging to North Korea. So all the military drills are not intended to make public. However, whenever we had these big size joint military drills between U.S. and South Korea, that we always try to convey a message to North Korea in the region that South Korea and the United States are ready to fight anytime with all those like strategic assets deployed. So now with a comprehensive military agreement and with this atmosphere of having dialogue with North Korea, maybe the messaging part should be diminished because of the diplomatic consideration. So that is why we are trying to decrease the level of messaging part of the joint military exercise. And as we are suspending a series of joint military exercises right now, that I think it might send a symbolic message to North Korea that we don't want to agitate North Korea with the name of these military drills, but we still want to keep low profile of these military drills as far as we can.
On one hand, South Korea and the US are perhaps negotiating about these renaming of these drills. But on the other hand, South Korea and the US are also at loggerheads at the moment because they're continuing this renegotiation of the cost-sharing burden of hosting US forces in Korea. Now, the next round of negotiations is taking place in Seoul from Tuesday. And interestingly, though, in the lead-up to this, a report was released by the Wall Street Journal, which revealed that US President Donald Trump wanted to double the current cost that South Korea is paying to host these US forces, from $830 million to $1.6 billion. I mean, what do we know about the negotiations so far, and how likely do you think it is that Trump will get what he wants?
So the President Trump has always maintained his position on these cost-sharing issues between Korea and the United States. So when even he visited South Korea, and even after he visited the Pyeongyang base, the Camp Humphrey, that he still argued that the South Korea needs to pay more. So I think that it is reported from the Wall Street Journal that United States won at least 1.5 or twice as much that South Korea is now contributing to the cost sharing. But current system of current sharing limit how much South Korea actually can pay. So the United States want to add more items on the current system of current cost sharing, but now with suspended military drills, it's difficult for two countries to agree on what items can be added to the current system of cost sharing. And also the total amount of contribution should be made by South Korea should not be exceeding the public acceptance level. So now the report says that United States wants something around 1.5 or twice the range. However, South Korean government is trying to minimize the increase of the amount. So we have to see whether two countries can reach a point that they can all satisfy each party.
I mean, what's the worst case scenario here? I mean, do these negotiations go on for a long time? And what message does this send to North Korea, especially when South Korea and the US are meant to be working together on this?
So the current schedule will end at the end of December this year. So if there has been cases in the past that two countries could not reach an agreement by the deadline. So there's a case that we had similar cases in the past. However, if we don't come to an agreement, then we are going to be late in paying the salaries to the Korean workers in the U.S. base here, and also there are some delays in the payment of the construction and the maintenance cost, and also South Korea's assistance in the operation. So I think that with all these minor things, it can be manageable if we can come to an agreement January or February next year. However, the bigger issue is that now South Korean government and South Korean public can have some negative sentiment toward the U.S. government that why do Koreans need to pay more now? Because we have certain kind of rules of increasing the contribution to the cost sharing so far, and then all of a sudden that we have to pay double the price for the USFK, then what's the purpose of the USFK? That kind of negative sentiment can be grown within the Korean public. At the same time that US government probably think that this kind of negotiation would hurt the maintaining the US-ROK alliance in the future. And it can send a negative message to the NATO and the allies in the other regions. And for North Korea, this kind of issues can be viewed as a cleavage among the strong allies between US and South Korea. So it can be shown as a negative signal to the allies overseas and also to the North Korea.
Oh, just before we go, one last topic I'd like to get your thoughts on as well. So there's a lot of inter-Korean exchanges and cooperation projects going on right now. For example, there's a forestry talks that are happening in Pyeongyang between officials and experts over there. There's also going to be a round of healthcare talks this week and sports talks. I mean, what do you think about all these talks that are happening right now between the two Koreas, and how significant are they really?
So for the forestry talks, forestry issues are considered as humanitarian issues. So there are a lot of exemptions can be made for those kind of issues. So unlike railroad reconstruction issues, that there are these areas can proceed without much blocking from the U.S. government and the UN sanctions. So I think that we still need a lot of consultation with the U.S. government, but these areas are where we can proceed without concerning too much on the U.S. oppositions.
We'll have to keep seeing how those results of those talks come out, and hopefully we'll get your thoughts on them before the end of the year as well. That's all we have time for. Thank you for coming in today, as usual, and sharing us your insights.
Thank you very much.